Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. This is Thoughtful Nuggets and Pearls on Gift of Healing TV, and I am Sara Jane. This program, the topic is Understand to Heal. And I am very much going to be sharing this from my own experience. Really almost a little sharing of aspects of my own story, with the hope that that can support you along your own healing journey. I know that it's very specific to me, but I hope what you'll be able to do is take aspects of it, understand those aspects of it, and be able to bring that understanding into your own life. So very briefly, for those of you who have never heard my story before, I was scalded by a boiling milk coffee that went all over my face, my neck, and the jumper that I was wearing stuck to my skin. And this was just before my first birthday. So this was 61 years ago at time of recording. And I was hospitalized for 3 months. Now, back then, parents weren't allowed to stay with their children. The rules of the hospital were that my parents got to visit me for an hour once every other day. The reality was actually I got to see them once a week for an hour. And the research that I did when I started to realize that my insecurities, my feeling unloved, unwanted, not good enough, etc., all went back to that incident, that 3 months, that obviously the pain that I went through, the trauma of the pain, but then the trauma of almost desertion, of feeling rejected. But it was also about, so that was why I started researching. And the research led me to the fact that the reasons things had changed were, there were 3 stages that children went through. The first stage was classed as the naughty stage, where the child was constantly crying. Good and healthy, no issues with that at all, although obviously very uncomfortable for the child. The second stage was where the child stopped crying and was known as the good stage. That's not good, but they felt they could bring children back from that. The third stage was where the child lost interest in their parents before they even left the room. My mother has confirmed I hit stage 3. And that was a stage that my understanding of everything I read going back 20 odd years was that they didn't really feel they could bring children back from that. There was an awful lot of emotional damage that had been caused. There were other things that happened, but I felt, as I said, unwanted, unloved, not good enough. My wake-up call came in the form of a broken jaw that caused me 6 months of pain and sleepless nights. I'd spent nearly 40 years being a people pleaser, just trying to get people to like me for what I genuinely believed would only be a short period of time, because they'd wake up and realize that I wasn't worthy, I wasn't lovable, etc. That was how deep my insecurity was. In that process of that 6 months, I hadn't got the energy to have a full-time job, run a home. I would say gratefully, but I didn't have children. I was studying an accounting exam at the time, and I was trying to be a people pleaser. And I was exhausted, and I couldn't do it all. Something had to give. Well, in the long term, the people pleasing stopped. I started to find myself, and my marriage went as well. But I also just asked to go and see a psychotherapist, because I wished to understand why I had been the way I had been, why I'd acted in the way I had acted, why my life had been the way my life was. I knew a fair amount about my story. And as an adult, I could look at that and I could understand. I could understand circumstances outside of definitely my control as a baby, circumstances outside my parents' control. That I wasn't rejected. And it was about coming to an understanding of that. And I love going for walks, and especially if they can be sort of like more countrified. And at the time, this next bit happened. I was walking over some heathland, very close to where I lived, and I was having not a conversation. Maybe I was having a conversation with my younger self, and I was thinking about things. And then the realization hit me that the only person who had really rejected me had been me when I had changed my name. As a young child, I was Jane. Now I introduce myself as Sara Jane. I was christened Sara Jane, no hyphen. As a child, they actually called me by my middle name, by Jane. When my parents moved and I went to my second school, which was away from anybody that had ever knew me other than family, I told everyone I was called Sarah. In the process of changing my name from Jane to Sarah, I rejected that little girl who'd gone through so much. Because I'd also had a sister that died at 9 weeks old. And that was all by the time I was 18 months old, which just felt like another rejection. So what I did was I found out about my story. I talked to my mother. I tried talking to my dad, but dad had blocked certain things out. He sort of was like, his reaction was, but you were only in hospital for 5 days. He just totally blocked out the 3 months because apparently I was in for 5 days. They let me home, but because I wouldn't leave the wounds alone, and I don't know whether you can see them, but I've got the scars. I have got the scars, and I don't have a problem with them. They are a part of me. And he has blocked out that 3 months that his little girl, because I'm the oldest, was in hospital. And then obviously his wife, my mum, was heavily pregnant with Gillian, who then also died and classed as a cot death. Although obviously they did do an autopsy and it was something else they discovered that was wrong. But my parents temporarily went through investigation as well. So it's about, my suggestion is, whatever trauma you've been through, and a single word can be traumatic to a child. I would never dismiss anything that could traumatically affect a child. So if you have feelings of insecurity, unworthiness, lack of confidence, feeling unlovable, so many different words you can come up with. If you have those feelings, what happened in your childhood? Have you got anyone you can talk to that can potentially give you some sort of insight so that you can gain an understanding? Please don't think I am condoning any sorts of behavior. I am not. I really am not condoning any physical harm, emotional harm, damage, because yes, by the system, I was emotionally abused because of the fact that parents couldn't stay with their children. That's why the system has been changed. And maybe people wouldn't like such strong wording, but that is what happened. So if you can come to some sort of understanding, what did your parents go through as children? What did your grandparents go through? Is there a learned behavior that unfortunately then came down the line and affected you? It doesn't mean we condone people's actions and situations. It is just about understanding. And when I helped myself to understand, I've then been able to work with my inner child and help to heal her. It's still an ongoing process, but boy, I am so much happier, because as your child becomes happier and feels loved and protected and acknowledged, then so do you. And it isn't just about the adult understanding, it is then about you helping your child to, and find your own way. But that is what, I'm not trying to sell what I do. All I'm trying to do is share here how I came to an understanding of what happened, so that I have been able, that has been part of my healing process. And I hope that by sharing what I went through and how I've helped myself, that you can use that to help you too. That's why I've shared what I've shared here in this program. If anybody wishes to pass comment, please do. You can do that under the video. And if you're watching it on YouTube, do it there. You can email me if you would prefer it private, giftofhealingtv@gmail.com. You can go to the Gift of Healing TV website. You can leave a comment on the website. Again, if you prefer it was kept private, because I have to authorize every comment that goes up onto the website anyway. So, you know, and if it's just private, that's fine. I will not authorize it to go live onto the website. Please feel free to connect with me. I'm happy for you to do so. Next week, I am being joined by Sara Jane, and Sara is going to be sharing with us AcuNect. It's a technique that I say learned a little bit of. It's a self-care program that I did with Sara at the end of last year. And she's going to be here sharing this technique, or sharing information about this technique with you next week. So I really hope that you will join us then for that. In the meantime, be safe, take care, stay well. Namaste.